All right, so we're diving into the world of pawnbroking today.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's more than just those tense reality TV showdowns.
Right. Yeah,
The stuff you sent over really paints a different picture.
totally. Yeah. It's a lot more than meets the eye, that's for sure. It's really this blend of finance, appraisal expertise, even some legal stuff gets in there.
It's like I wouldn't have thought of it as a career path before this,
I
but
know, right?
it really is its own thing.
Yeah, and it's not just about knowing like how much gold is worth, which I think is the stereotype a lot of people have.
Totally.
It's more about can you trust the person you're dealing with?
Yeah, it's about who to trust with it.
Exactly.
And I guess that's where the whole people skills thing comes in.
It's huge. If you look at this role catcher guide, it emphasizes that a pawnbroker isn't just assessing like an object. They're assessing a whole situation.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it takes a lot of, active listening and communication.
So it's like they're kind of like a financial detective almost.
I like that. That's a really good way to put it.
Trying to figure out like what's the story behind the item, but also the person bringing it in.
Exactly, because remember, these are short-term loans we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
With someone's, prized possession often on the line.
Right.
And so the pawnbroker really needs to figure out, like, are they dealing with someone who's hit a temporary rough patch? Or is this someone trying to pull one over on them?
Okay, that makes sense. There's a level of risk there that I just hadn't considered.
Totally.
But what about those those Pawn Stars moments, like the unexpected finds, the big paydays? Is that just TV magic or is there some truth to that?
Well, I mean, reality TV, it's all about the drama, right?
Right.
But the role catcher guide, it does say that you might come across some unique items.
Okay.
But it seems like day to day, it's really more about building that trust and making smart business decisions.
So less about like striking gold and more about consistently serving your clientele?
Exactly. And you have to
Yeah.
really know your stuff
Yeah, because the market changes so quickly probably for a lot of this stuff.
all the time. Like, think about it, what was once like a cutting-edge gadget.
Oh, right, like a flip phone.
Exactly. Like, nobody wants that now, right? But to a collector, all of a sudden, it's like a gold mine.
It could be, yeah.
And a pawnbroker needs to know that.
So they're balancing history and economics and then also like dealing with people from all walks of life. I wouldn't even know where to start with that.
It's a lot.
Like, how do you even break into this field?
Right.
It seems like you need decades of experience just to even get your foot in the door.
Yeah, there definitely is a learning curve. But RoleCatcher mentioned that most people, they start in entry-level positions.
Okay.
Kind of like an apprenticeship.
Mm.
You're assisting these experienced pawnbrokers, you're learning the ropes, gradually taking on more responsibility.
So you're not like evaluating a Ming vase on your first day?
Probably not, no.
Okay, that's good to know.
But those early experiences, they're crucial. You're building those appraisal skills, figuring out inventory management, and most importantly, you're seeing how the pros interact with clients.
Because it's one thing to know what something's worth, it's a whole other thing to negotiate a deal.
Exactly.
Especially when emotions are running high.
For sure. And that's where those soft skills really shine. You got to know how to, like, de-escalate a tense situation. You have to build rapport with someone who might be having a tough time.
Right, right.
And you have to be able to explain these sometimes complex financial things in a way that anyone can understand.
Yeah, it's like they're a financial therapist almost.
I love that.
Like they're helping people navigate these tough situations all while running a business.
That's a good point.
Which makes me wonder, what does career progression even look like in this field? Is it one of those like once a pawnbroker, always a pawnbroker type deals, or is there room to move up?
Oh, no, there's definitely room to grow.
Okay, good to know. So how does that work?
Well, you move beyond just assisting. You start to specialize.
Oh, interesting. Like in what?
It could be anything. Jewelry, antiques. You become the go-to person for certain things.
So you're really developing that niche.
Right. And you start negotiating loans on your own.
Okay, so there's that financial side coming in.
Yeah, you need to understand interest rates, loan terms, the whole 9 yards.
It's a lot more than just recognizing a fake Rolex at that point.
Exactly. And it's serious business. Because if that loan goes bad,
Oh, right, if they don't pay it back.
the pawnbroker's the one holding the bag, literally.
So what happens then? You just put it back on the shelf?
Not that simple. There's a process for unpaid loans.
Oh, really? I figured it was like finders keepers or something.
No, they have to send notices, try to contact the borrower,
Yeah,
and if all else fails, then they can sell it.
to get their money back.
Exactly.
So you could end up running your own shop one day.
Potentially. It's like any business. You work your way up, learn the ropes.
I never thought about it like that.
And the legal stuff, that just becomes more and more important as you go.
Right, you're dealing with contracts, maybe even lawsuits if things go south.
Exactly. It's not just about knowing your diamonds, it's about knowing the law, too.
It makes you realize there's a lot more to this than people think.
Totally. There's this whole ethical side that gets overlooked.
Because people think pawn shops are shady or something.
Yeah, like they're taking advantage of people.
Right.
But these places have regulations, ethical guidelines, the whole deal.
So it's not like what you see on TV all the time.
Exactly. Because their reputation is everything.
Because if people don't trust you...
They're not coming back. Especially when it's something sentimental.
Right. It's not just any other purchase. There are feelings involved.
Absolutely. And pawnbrokers see people at their best, and sometimes their worst.
When they're down on their luck, needing a little extra help.
Exactly. So that empathy, that understanding, that's a huge part of it.
It's like you said before, it's about assessing a situation, not just the item itself.
Precisely. And treating everyone with respect, no matter what their situation is.
It really challenges those stereotypes we were talking about.
It does. Because pawnbrokers, they're part of the community.
Yeah, they're helping people make ends meet sometimes.
Providing a service, a financial lifeline even.
And let's be real, we've all had those moments when we could use a little extra cash.
100%. And pawn shops, they offer that flexibility you don't get with a bank.
So it can be a win-win.
Exactly. The client gets the help they need, and the pawnbroker gets something for their inventory.
Speaking of, how often do those hidden gem moments happen? Is that just a TV thing or what?
It's definitely not every day, but it happens. Pawnbrokers see a lot of cool stuff.
Like what kind of stuff are we talking here?
Could be a vintage watch, a first edition book, you never know.
Now that's cool. Those are the stories you hear about and think, man, I wish that was me.
Right. And it's that expertise, that knowledge that allows them to spot those treasures.
It's like they have the sixth sense for value.
They're almost like curators in a way, preserving these pieces of history.
And you never know. That item might find its way back to its rightful owner one day.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
It just goes to show you, you never know what you might find in a pawn shop.
And that there's more to this industry than meets the eye.
Definitely. It's constantly evolving, especially with technology.
Oh, that's right. You were telling me about that before we started recording.
Yeah, it's changing the game.
Okay, so no robot pawnbrokers yet, right?
Not yet. But they are using specialized software now.
Oh, wow. Like what?
Databases, AI, all kinds of things to help with appraisals, inventory management.
So even though it's such a, I don't know, old school kind of profession,
Yeah, it seems that way, doesn't it?
technology is keeping it current.
It's essential because, like we were saying earlier, the market's always changing.
And you got to keep up.
Exactly. Pawnbrokers are always learning, going to workshops, networking, you name it.
It's like they're part of a secret society or something.
It does feel that way sometimes. But it's that passion that really makes them good at what they do.
That desire to learn and uncover those hidden stories.
Exactly.
Yeah, it really highlights how multifaceted this whole thing is.
For sure.
Like, we've been looking at it from the pawnbroker's point of view.
Right.
But you sent some stuff about the buyers, too.
Oh, yeah, the customers.
It's like a whole other side to this.
Absolutely. Because pawn shops aren't just about getting loans.
Right. You can find some really unique stuff in there.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I've heard stories, people finding vintage guitars, designer bags, you name it.
It's true. And for way less than you'd pay anywhere else.
That's what I'm saying.
It's like a treasure hunt every time you walk in.
Like, you never know what you're going to find.
Exactly. Could be a vintage record player.
Ooh.
First edition of a book. You just never know.
It's like that saying, one man's trash or whatever.
Right. One person's junk is another person's treasure.
Exactly.
And it's different from, like, shopping online.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You can actually hold the stuff in your hands, you know?
Yeah, you get a feel for it.
You can haggle a bit, see if you can get a better price.
There's that thrill of the hunt, you know? Like you're on a mission.
Exactly.
It's not like just adding something to your cart. It's an experience.
It is, and you could end up with something really special.
A piece of history, literally.
Imagine that, finding an antique pocket watch, like from the 1800s.
And it's got a story behind it.
Exactly. You could tell people, oh, I found this at a little pawn shop downtown.
That's way cooler than saying you got it on Amazon.
Right. It adds a little something, you know?
Definitely. It's like each piece has its own story.
It really does.
And the pawnbrokers are kind of like the keepers of those stories.
Yeah, they're preserving them, making sure these items get a second life.
It's a cool way to think about it.
So next time you see a pawn shop,
Don't just walk by.
yeah, go inside. You never know what you might find.
You might just find your new favorite thing.
Exact.
This has been awesome. Thanks for opening my eyes to this whole world.
Yeah.